waited for us to come to him. Rockstar cool handbook, rule number 1. Wait for fans to come to you and act like it's business as usual. He had it down pat. He smiled the most charismatic smile I'd ever seen in my life. And then he said this to me. He said, "Sounds like you kids been running." And I said, "Yeah, to catch you, Elvis." And he picked me up, and he put me on his shoulders, and he spun me round and round. He took off my baseball cap, ran his fingers through my hair, threw my cap back on, carried me around laughing. And then he hugged my sister for what seemed like a really long time. She already had boobs and stuff, so it was cool. And then he just kept talking to us. He gave me his autograph on a piece of paper he casually ripped out of a notebook he was holding. It was 1969, and he was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. He seemed like he would have talked to us for an eternity until finally one of his assistants came up and said, "Come on, boss, we gotta go." So we waved goodbye to the king and rode our bikes home high on the trail of success. Nothing could ruin our happy moods. Sure, the Vietnam War was looming over us, and assassinations and drug overdoses were all over the papers, but all we knew was Elvis Presley was our best friend, and we were fans for life. When I got home that night, I pulled my trusty guitar out of the case, and I practiced for hours and hours. And that was the night I learned how to play "I Can't Help Falling in Love with You" in blue suede shoes. Cause you know what, Nelsonville? Life is full of memory markers. Some memories are brighter than others, and this is one memory I'll never forget. The day I met peaceful Zen Elvis and offered him my sister. We tied Hollywood and baseball in the car. The voice of Harry Carey, man, it would travel really far. Harry Carey was the voice of the St. Louis Cardinals at first, but then he slept with Augie Bush's wife behind Augie Bush's back, and Augie Bush owned the St. Louis Cardinals, so he exiled them to Chicago. Harry Carey would then never drink Budweiser again and only drank Old Style. And he could never pronounce the players from the Dominican Republic's name. So say maybe the Cubbies were playing the Cincinnati Reds and Davy Concepcion was coming up for Cincinnati. He couldn't say Davy Concepcion because he'd be drunk on Old Style, and this is what he sounded like to me. Come along to the top of the night, Billy. Dino Consiglione for the Reds. Look at Sparky Anderson put his chest in the umpire's face. Holy cow. This is the greatest show I've ever played. Now here I am, a growing up boy at home on the 4th of July, staring out at the ocean and the fireworks in the sky. I miss my friends who aren't around, the ones who passed away. Now I'm feeling kind of grateful here on Independence Day. We tied Hollywood and baseball in the car. The voice of Tom Cheek. Cheek, are you kidding me? Is that what the words say? Tom Cheek was the voice of the Toronto Blue Jays. He's dead. But in 1993, the Blue Jays were trying to repeat as World Series champions. They were playing the Philadelphia Phillies. Guess who was pitching for the Phillies? Mitch, the Wild Thing Williams. He was on the mound. Who comes up to bat? Joe Carter. And his own announcer, Tom Cheek, starts giving Joe Carter shit, and he says, "Joe is having trouble trying to lay out that ball over the outside part of the plate, and he just went after one." And then Joe Carter does the unspeakable, hits a walk-off home run. A Canadian team repeats as World Series champions. My dad ran out to the front yard naked with the Canadian flag in Palm Springs, California. Our neighbors called the police. It was like our own episode of Cops. I watched my dad get handcuffed. And as Joe Carter's foot touched second base, I will never forget what Tom Cheek says, because you can never plan this. He said, touch them all, Joe. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life. And it was one of the most amazing things I'd ever heard, and I think it sounded like this. This is what I think it sounded like.
Joe has had his moments, trying to lay off that ball low to the up. Joe has had his moments, trying to lay off that ball low to the up. Joe has had his moments, trying to lay off that ball low to the up.
Outside part of the plate, man, just went afterward. There's a pitch on the way, a sweep, a belt, left field, way back. Blue Jays win, and the Blue Jays have repeated as World Series champions. Touch them all, Joe. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life. We talk Hollywood, baseball in the voice of Tom Sheep. It would travel with I get allergies and asthma in the yard. No one ever told me